Well, so many of us are working from home at the moment and unable to travel as normal. But when I'm able to travel, one of my favorite countries to visit is vibrant India. And I'm delighted today that we have Harmeen Mehta, who is the Global CIO for Bharti Airtel, who's going to join us today. Harmeen is an international CIO recognized by MIT Sloan and also a vice chair of the board of the TM Forum. Harmeen, hello.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. How are things in India? It must have been a very interesting few months. I can only imagine what happened to this bustling, busy, colourful country for during the last few months of lockdown.
So I think, Nick, like the rest of the world, I think if anybody had asked me maybe a few years ago saying there's going to be this year, 2020, half of the world is going to be under house arrest, I would have thought they're narrating the plot of some Hollywood movie. So I think we've been getting used to it, and we love our movies in this part of the world. So I think we've just been getting used to this movie of life, which is so different to how normally Indians kind of live their lifestyle does most of the world. But I think what's really peculiar about India is the contrast and it's a country of contradictions. It's a country of plenty and absolute nothingness as well. I mean, it's just it's just so many different nations, it feels like, piled into one. So I think everybody has been coping it in a very, very different way. I thought I'll share one very interesting screenshot with you, which is taken, from the flight as you land into Mumbai, which is, I think, if I'm not wrong, probably the fourth or the fifth richest city in the world today. And as you can see in this screenshot, you've basically got the wealthiest neighborhood, all the tall towers and the most expensive real estate in the country. And right in front of it, what you see is actually the slum area. It's called Dharavi. It's almost as if you can draw a line between the two areas, and how the wealthiest of the wealthy and the those really struggling to make through life coexist in literally not only one city, but one side of the road versus the other. And I think that's the story really about how we are going to be able to cope with this entire situation. It's also not one story. There have to be many stories and tied in within that.
Of course.
And I think that reminds me of the customer base. The lady on the left, she's very much our customer. The lady on the right, she's equally our customer. And actually, there might not be that much difference between even the ARPU that they give us. And the prime reason for that would be because even those who are living, the migrant labor who are working and living away from their families, their only means of communication with those loved ones, is through their mobile phones, etc. And that is their entertainment source as well. And when it comes to kids, kids don't know what straight of society they are. They're as addicted, to what's the new world's got to offer, whether they're from the well-to-do families or those who are still struggling to make it through. And I thought I'd also share a graph of how we saw the traffic really surge. And this is literally a day-by-day graph of, the first few weeks of lockdown. And we saw an absolute surge of mobile traffic, both on the daily data volume as well as the total traffic that we were seeing across the network. 15% increase in the traffic literally in the first few weeks, almost 22% increase in downloads, and more than 50% of our users were exhausting their daily data quota. And in a country where actually the daily data quota is almost many times that of the Western world. We give almost a GB and a half a day over here.
Yeah.
I always find the Western world to be far more stingy on that and far more costly.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the contrast. But the main thing that happened over here is, think about the urban houses. And, Airtel is, we're really fortunate to have the who's who of India, on our network. And we have a disproportionate market share of the top pyramid in the country as Airtel customers. We've been really pivoted towards a lot of those as well. And I think because of that, what we saw was, in a household, the same house is now a home, it's an office, it's also a theater, it's your only source of entertainment. And I think that gave light to some really interesting things that we did. we actually came up with one of our most innovative ideas. We've created an Android box, which has live TV and it has satellite TV, all OTT, availability over there, plus music through our, of course, Wink, which is our largest music platform, and of course, broadband into the home. I mean, an absolutely, ravishing concept. It creates a theater in every home. And it is completely, kind of not only omni-channel, but multi-screen as well. So plays on the mobile, plays on the TV, plays on a laptop, an iPad, whatever you've got. And I just thought I'll share a small film of what we actually did during that time. And now we are seeing these boxes kind of go through the roof. So it's been a really, really successful a successful launch for us. So if I may just share the video for a second.
ए, क्या देख रहा है? इस छोटी दुनिया से बाहर निकल। ये देख,
एयरटेल एक्सट्रीम। What is this place?
ये है एंटरटेनमेंट की बड़ी दुनिया।
टीवी चैनल्स, वेब सीरीज दोनों। वेब सीरीज, टीवी चैनल, वेब सीरीज। ओके गूगल, प्ले 4K वीडियो ऑन यूट्यूब।
जो देखो बड़ा देखो with Airtel Extreme, now available with all your favorite subscriptions.
So, I mean, that's really interesting. But what really struck me from that presentation is that first picture you showed there. It's a really striking visual divide, isn't it? Just to see the difference between the big tower blocks in Mumbai and the poorer community. And in India, as you say, it's a country of such diversity in the country. I'd like to talk to you now about the purpose of telecoms, though, because I'm sure that's been reinforced for you during this time. We've heard from many operators around the world how I think our industry's really discovered its purpose during this time, and it's an unusual time where we've had world leaders thanking telecom companies for keeping economies moving and loved ones connected. So how have you been serving that billion poorer community, or those who are rising up?
So I think that's really been the biggest challenge, Nick. And as you can see on this slide as well, everybody, every single, whether it's an OTT player or it's the digital side of telcos or any of the other social media platforms, everybody is playing in the same pool of about 300, 400 million Indians, because they are the ones who are more digitally savvy and have smartphones. But more than having a smartphone, are comfortable enough to interact with it and pay digitally and do various things. But yes, there is an entire chasm which we've got to cross to get to the next billion. And I think this is where I think the pandemic really changed a lot of our thinking. The one thing as a CIO I realized is our job is to keep pushing the boundaries, especially as technology pushes the boundaries of what is possible today. Probably wasn't possible a decade ago and wasn't possible a decade before that. But I think what we need to do equally is push the boundaries of our own minds. I think if we're going to wait for these billion people to actually cross over this chasm and come and become digitally savvy, we would have lost the plot as a country. And I think the patriotic sense in me has always thought about that how do we cross that chasm rather than waiting them to come to the digital side? And I think that is somewhere where we spent a lot of our time doing research and coming up with new concepts of what is possible for us to actually reach the masses and take digital to them in a form that they understand, not in the form that we want to take digital and the way we do it with the urban part of India as well. And I think that's where came the concept during this time that all these people who were in all these villages, they ran out of recharges. They were unable to go to any shop because all the shops were closed. Only thing that was open in the country was medical stores. And the other pieces we found was actually this brought humanity together. So people were more than ready to help everybody else. And we just played on some of those sentiments and took hold of those problems. And one of the magical thing about Airtel is just the spirit within the company. And one of the things that our sales guys did literally in a few days, not even weeks, was went and tied up with every single pharmacy, every single chemist shop, every single medical store that was open in the country, and converted them and saying, hey, here is our person. He's going to help people coming into the medical stores do the recharge, because they were the only shops in the entire country that were open. The second thing that was open, of course, were the ATMs. So we actually enabled recharge on the ATMs as well, and something we did within literally a few days. Did a lot of tie-ups, and we saw between our own digital properties, as well as using all these new innovations, our online recharges actually surged to well over 70-75% in that very short period of time. And the third thing, which was very, very powerful, was we actually, really called out to all of our digital customers and created a campaign which went viral, saying, how can you help others, and do a recharge for them. And actually, some of the youth in the country make this into a livelihood, because we did give small cash rewards for doing that as well. And they actually, if there's one educated youth living in a building, or living in an area in a village which has got, let's say, 100 people all around him, he would do the recharge for all of them, and almost make a little more than a pocket money, but make some money for himself. But it gave all those opportunity who were not digitally savvy themselves to almost get digitally savvy, except they were assisted through this one individual who was really happy to help. So that's what he called Help a Friend. So we came up with all these campaigns, besides, of course, our own digital properties, we did really, really well. But it was, I have to give the credit for all of this to our customers, because they are the ones who inspired us to do that. And we actually took some of those customers and made a small film on that as well. So I'll share that with you guys.
मैं रिचार्ज करने गई थी, सिर्फ दवाई की दुकान खुली थी और सब कुछ बंद।
देखा तो बैलेंस खत्म, बिल्कुल खत्म।
अब एयरटेल ही बताएं, क्या करें, कहां जाएं?
ऐसे लाखों सवाल हमारे लिए बिल्कुल नए थे, इसीलिए रिचार्ज के भी हमने एक नहीं कई नए तरीके बनाए।
वो सेकंड फ्लोर वाले साहब है ना, उन्होंने मेरा कर दिया ऑनलाइन।
दवाई की दुकान और एटीएम में भी
यूं हो जाता है।
You know, it's so easy now.
कनेक्टेड रहने से ज्यादा जरूरी आज कुछ भी नहीं।
सब कुछ बंद है,
पर ये नहीं।
आपके हर सवाल का जवाब ना दें तब तक हम रुकेंगे नहीं।
Well, that's really remarkable, Harmeen, and I'm going to pick up on that spirit of Airtel again in just a moment. But first of all, tell us a bit more about some of the other things you've been doing to help that extra billion people during this time, because it goes, of course, beyond needing just connectivity and be able to talk to each other. There's so many other services that have been disrupted during this time.
Yeah, and I think that was another big challenge. So, a few years ago, about three and a half years ago, Airtel actually, we acquired a payments bank license as well, and so we've got a bank within the, within the group, and it's a very unique bank, because the entire concept of that entity is actually financial inclusion and getting to those, financial both help and reach into those who are underbanked or unbanked. And there's more than 350 million people in India who are underbanked, and in normal circumstances they would have to walk like 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers or more to get to the nearest bank branch, etc. So we took again a lot of inspiration from that. And what happened during this period was over 30 million workers, which are the migrant workers, who had come from all of these various parts of the country and were living in urban and earning their livelihood in urban and using that livelihood to support their families back in the villages. 30 million of those actually got fully displaced. And some of them got stuck in urban cities but could not afford to stay in the places that they were, and they walked days. It was quite a heart-wrenching state for the entire country while all this was being played out. And others, once they reached back into their villages, then were unable to come back, and they'd lost their livelihood, because these are a lot of people who would make their living on a daily basis. So you kind of work for the day and you earn your bread for the night, and those kind of workers as well. And they really struggled through this lockdown, and which got extended again and again, and as the country was trying to fight the pandemic. And one of the biggest things that we thought we could do for them was actually do a focus program together with the bank, where the concept we came up with is really appealing to this rural India, saying every time you come and buy a telco SIM, we'll open a bank account for you. And what we also did was that we greatly expanded the reach of our bank. Airtel has, as a telecom, we have over a million million retailers, and you can go to any of these shops, and none of them are more than 100 to 200 meters away from your home, and do your recharge and whatever. And each one of them is now a banking correspondent. So it's like a human bank. It's a human ATM. You can give him money and he puts it into your account. You can take your cash out from those. You can buy insurance. And that included special health insurance for COVID, etc. You can actually go and pay for your utility bills. So is a human teller and human ATM and a financial advisor and everything, and also your telecom recharge retailer. So everything in one. And we expanded this massively, and we came up with this concept where for a large part of rural India, the SIM became kind of your bank account as well, and your mobile number when you took it from Airtel is also your bank account number. So it's very easy for people to remember. And I think it is. It kind of wrenched our heart quite a lot in many things that we did. This is one of the things we did for the consumers. And then there were a few other things we did as well on the telco side, where almost 80 million people, which are in the lowest income bracket and were impacted the most, we actually made our services free for that big month of lockdown. So they were able to stay connected with their loved ones. We also indirectly we are responsible, or we generate employment for hundreds of thousands of other partner employees out there, and we continue to pay all their salaries so that nobody would get impacted, etc. So there's a lot of those things that whatever we could do, we did. But I think this entire concept of this bank SIM is what really revolutionized the country, and really took almost financial services and banking into a day-to-day area, into areas where people had not gone before. I'm going to share a brief film over here as well to give you a flavor of what we did.
हाँ, टाइम बदलेगा तो चले जाएंगे शहर वापस। तब तक यही काम सही। अब यहाँ ना बैंक है ना एटीएम, ये टेंशन तो है ही। उसके अलावा
पर एयरटेल का सिम कार्ड तो है।
हाँ
है
पर इससे क्या लाइफ बदल जाएगी?
ना, थोड़ी आसान होगी, क्योंकि ये सिम नहीं बैंक वाला सिम है। अपने एयरटेल नंबर से नजदीकी दुकान पे 5 मिनट में अकाउंट खोलो, फिर वही पैसे जमा करो और निकालो। 5 लाख का दुर्घटना बीमा पाओ और हर रिचार्ज पर कैशबैक भी।
और ये
सवारी के लिए।
Not sure, Nick, how the Western world would feel about going to a grocery store and buying a candy bar over there, and also opening a bank account, but it really sells in India.
Well, I think that's really striking, Harmeen, and kudos to you and the whole team at Airtel for just the ingenuity of that. What it really picks up on for me is the adjacencies this opens up. When you think about, we look at the capability you have in a different way through a different lens. You've got, as you mentioned, this nationwide network that can go from being the place you go and top up your phone and buy your groceries to, as you say, your bank and maybe many other things. So how do you want to build on those adjacencies? And do you think the work that you've done during these challenging times is something that will change your approach to innovation in the future?
I think definitely. I think it already has. We're incubating some new businesses as well, and seeing that how we can really, make those come to life as well. And I think we as a company have actually been very successful at that in the past as well. About 5 years ago, we started Wink, which is now the #1 music app in the country. Extreme TV, which is our OTT play on the mobile. For live TV and movies, etc., is really, really successful with millions and millions of customers. Bank, we've got almost 50 million customers on the bank alone, and doing more than $2 billion of throughput a month. I think and I see the same phenomenon I saw a few years earlier. I mean, we've been seeing that in Africa as well. More than 35% of Kenya's GDP is actually on mobile money. And now India is starting to go very much on on that route. And these are actually, this is not just mobile money, this is full banking services that our customers can avail of. I think this is, and I'm really, I'm really taken aback that how these adjacencies have become, almost larger than life. And this whole financial services concept together with the telco, I mean, absolutely. I mean, kudos to those people who thought of the idea, 3-4 years ago, and in the government, and gave up these licenses as well. And and then the onus was on companies like ours to really serve India well, with the privilege that we were given. And that's what we've been really, really, really focused on doing. But it has definitely, brought to life the fact that when you bring the right adjacency that has a synergy with the core business, even though it's a little bit on the side, there are so many new business models you can create, so many new innovations you can bring about for the customers. And what customers are looking for today, especially, post this entire year, the kind of year that we've had, is simplicity of life and focusing on things that matter the most, and wanting everything else to be taken care of. And I think that's what adjacencies can really do with telcos, is help simplify the lives of our customers and bring a lot more value to them in actually a very hassle-free manner.
Now, of course, I mean, that really moves you on from being a telco, doesn't it? Because so many companies around the world in the telecom community are talking about becoming a tech company, becoming a software company. It's about something more. But what you're describing in Airtel is that you're actually doing that in practice. And that is obviously important from a business point of view, but the purpose that brings, it's great to talk about $1 billion that's not about $1 billion, but actually about 1 billion people. It has so much more meaning. So you must be incredibly proud to be part of that movement and making that happen.
Absolutely. I think the first thing that I feel that, at least for the telecom industry, COVID has done is bring pride back into our industry, and make us realize, not just our customers as well, that we do have an essential role to play in a society. And I think we form the backbone of what society is today. And I think seeing our customers acknowledge that as well, I think has really elevated the status of telecoms throughout the world. And I think where we take it from here is now the onus is back on us. How much we can learn from this and how much we can build on this. And this sentiment, that positive sentiment that we've got going with our customers as well. How much of that we use to actually listen to them, to say what are their next problems to solve, and be there, right there with them as we solve them.
Yeah. Now, let me bring you back to something you said earlier about the spirit of Airtel, because for you to achieve what you've delivered in the last few months, but also we have to put this in the context of what's been a hugely disrupted telecom market in India in the last few years. You've had to really transform Airtel to be extremely agile, able to respond, extremely customer centric. So it'd be great if you could share with our audience a bit of what's happened in that journey, and just how much of that has counted towards what you've been able to do in the last 6 months.
I tell you, it's been a journey and a half, and the last few years have, except for sleep deprivation, everything else has been exhilarating. But I think we've got an incredible team here, and the entire focus on solving problems and doing them in a very simple and digital manner. And I think that is what really bode very well for us. I mean, I remember when the part I showed about help a friend, and internally we called it kind of the superhero program, because we said we're going to create these superheroes in society which are going to swoop in and help a whole lot of people out. And as we were building those, I remember being on a call with the team saying, if naturally it would have taken us, let's say, several days to build it, that if we really crunched it, that how much we could do. And all this young blood in the organization, and the incredible engineering team that I have, everybody stood up to the challenge and said, well, we'll work day and night, and we will work the weekends, and we will not rest till it is launched, because every single day mattered, and it mattered for our customers much more, and that's the reason it mattered to us. And I think the way everybody came together to just single-mindedly focus on solving the problems for the customers we were able to do things that we would normally have done over the course of the year, we were able to do in the quarter, and things we would have done over 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, we were able to turn around in less than a week. And things we would have done in a week normally, we were doing in a day. And I think that whole spirit kind of really united everybody. And I don't know, I somehow feel it gave a different superpower to every human being and every technologist and every developer for sure, who was able to generate a lot more productivity during this period as well, and really make the needle move for the company and more importantly for the customers. It's been an incredible few months.
Well, Harmeen Mehta, those are great sentiments, and thanks to your passion that we're driving forward so far. So Harmeen Mehta, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.